Welcome back again, my dear brothers and sisters. So we have finally reached the episode which we have been waiting for with bated breath. Because in this episode, we are going to solve the greatest question of our existence, and that is if there exists a creator. But before we dive into the main topic, let us have a quick recapitulation of the previous episode. So what did we find in the previous episode? In the previous episode, we found that we actually rely on many means to find this truth if there exists a creator. And we found that common means that we rely on are mostly imperfect. The only true means that we should rely on to find this truth is common sense. So from this episode, now let us use our common sense to derive all the aspects of this greatest question if there exists a creator. So let's begin. So first and foremost, what do we mean by creation? What is creation? What is act of creating? So I am wearing a watch, and this is an invention of science. Okay, so can we say that science has created this watch? Okay, to find that, let's see what did science do to get this watch. This watch is made of only two materials, metal and glass. By the way, this is a mechanical watch, so it does not need any battery. So there is no chemical involved in it. Fine. So only two materials, metal and glass. And as you know that mechanical watches are the watches which are powered by your hand movement. So as you move your hand, there is a mainspring inside which gets wound. And that is the preserved power for the watch, which moves the hour, minute and second hands. And this is how it actually tells you the time. This is an amazing invention of science indeed. So there are only two materials, used to make this watch, and that are metal and glass. Where do we get metals from? Metals we get from rocks. There are rocks which are called ores. So these rocks are actually rich in minerals. We extract metals from these rocks. So all the metals actually come from their respective rocks. For example, iron comes from an ore, rock, hematite. Copper comes from pyrite. Aluminium from bauxite, and there is a list. So metals actually come from their respective ores, or in other words, metals come from rock. And where do we get glass from? Glass comes from a particle present in the sand called quartz. So glass comes from sand. So rocks and sand, all these things are already there in nature. All science has done is to gather these things up from various parts of nature. This cannot be called creation because these things were existing, right? This is invention or discovery. In fact, any invention of science, whether it is simple invention or complex invention, involves three things. We discover actually things from nature. And second, we find the chemical and physical properties of those things. And third, if we find that those chemical and physical properties are actually helpful for us, useful for us, then we use them either separately or in combination like a machine to serve a specific purpose. That is what invention is. Every invention is like this. But this cannot be called creation. Act of creating or creation is something which is beyond our comprehension. That is something we cannot do, science cannot do. What is creation? Creation means something starts existing from a point of time before which it never existed, right? Or to bring something from its non-existence to existence. This is called creation, which is beyond our comprehension, in fact. Well, now the biggest question is, where did the universe come from? What made this universe exist? Now, my dear brothers and sisters, no matter how much you are going to brainstorm, you cannot find anything other than four possibilities. If you think the reason behind, the universe's existence, you won't find anything other than four possibilities. What are these four possibilities? Number one, universe came from nothing. Number two, universe is ever existing. That means there is no question of coming into existence at some point of time. It is there. It is forever. It is ever existing. Number three is universe created itself. That is, it is self-created, self-generated. And number four is someone separate from the universe, and an entity separate from the universe created the universe. See, number four says what? That someone, that entity is actually separate from the universe, because if that entity is not separate from the universe, then it will become point number three. That is, universe created itself. So the difference between third and the fourth point is that fourth point says that entity is actually separate from the creation who created the universe. Right? So these are the four possibilities, my brothers and sisters. Once again, I enumerate so that you remember. Number one, universe came from nothing. Two, universe is ever existing, always there. And number three, universe created itself. And four, an entity who is separate from the creation created this universe. Now let us see which one of these is actually true, because all of them cannot be true. Not only all of them, even two of them cannot be true. You know why? Because all these possibilities are contradictory to each other. So, first possibility, and that is universe came from nothing. What do we mean by nothing, my brothers and sisters? Nothing means no thing. Nothing means no thing. That means zero. And our common sense says that zero cannot produce anything no matter what you do with zero. How many times you want to add 0? You know, million, billion, trillion times 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, 0 remains 0. You know, how many times you want to subtract 0? 0 remains 0. How many times 0 minus 0 minus 0, 0 remains 0. How many times you want to multiply 0? 0 times 0 times 0 times 0 times, you know, it's 0. And if you divide 0 by 0, then mathematics says that it is meaningless. So my dear brothers and sisters, 0 cannot produce anything at all. But there are some people, those who believe that 0 can produce something. They believe that 0 can produce something. You know, I mean, how? You must be thinking, you know what, how do they substantiate their claim that 0 can actually produce something? Well, the explanation that they give is quite complex, because you know what, this explanation actually, they involve mostly particle physics, quantum mechanics, theory of relativity, this stuff. And obviously we are not going to do that, because this is not a science lecture. And we don't expect all our viewers also to be, you know what, willing to do that. So what am I going to do? I am going to explain you their concept. I am going to explain their idea, but in my own way. With the same example of 0, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to be using any subject, nor I'm going to use any jargon. I will use my own example of that 0 and explain you what exactly they say. So what they say is that 0 can be split into positive 1 and negative 1. And this is right. You know, plus 1 minus 1 equals to 0. Everyone knows that. So according to them, 0 can be split into plus 1 and minus 1. So 0, suddenly what happened? Suddenly it split into plus 1 and minus 1. Or the universe, when there was nothing, that nothing actually split into positive something and negative something. Or to be more specific, positive energy and negative energy. Or if you like, positive matter and negative matter. As you know that energy and matter, you know, have a relationship, E equals mc squared, that famous formula of Albert Einstein. So that nothing actually split into positive something and negative something, positive energy and negative energy. And that positive energy is the part which is the universe we are living in today. That is all the celestial bodies, animals, plants and everything that we see in the universe. That is what that positive part of the energy, or positive part of that something. And negative something or negative energy is also there in the universe. And if this positive and negative were to be added again, then again universe will become 0. Again universe will become nothing. This is what they say. But this explanation begs a big question which is unavoidable. A big question. And that is, what triggered that nothing to split into suddenly plus 1 and minus 1? I mean, positive something and negative something. What triggered that 0 to split into plus 1 and minus 1 suddenly? You know? And this is something that they cannot answer. These people cannot answer this. You know? Rather, they say something which is completely irrelevant. This doesn't answer the question actually. What they say that in subatomic level, what happens, tiniest particles actually behave in some strange way. They have some unpredictable movements, something that you cannot actually explain. You cannot even explain them by the laws of physics, because in this level, they actually defy physics. Rather, their movements and these arbitrary movements and everything are actually, you know, what's studied under a subject called quantum mechanics. So according to them, one of these arbitrary movements might have caused that 0 to split into suddenly plus 1 and minus 1. That means might have caused that nothing to split into positive something and negative something. This is what they believe. You know? And after that, everything actually what formed with the positive 1 and negative 1 is also existing. This is what they believe in fact. But wait a second. Why are you saying subatomic level? Means we are discussing something from nothing. So you should actually start your explanation from nothing. Why are you starting, you know, why are you already imagining that there was a stage that is subatomic level? Actually, you are not explaining something from nothing. What you are saying is something from something, because you are already imagining that something was there, subatomic level. Well, they cannot answer this. Rather, they say that there was never any absolute nothing in the universe. I mean, there was nothing called absolute nothing. So initially there was a cosmic state where all these quantum level movements and all these quantum level events took place. This is what they believe, you know. So they do not explain nothing, I mean something from nothing. They explain from something. That means already they imagine that there was a subatomic level or something of that sort. So my dear brothers and sisters, this has many challenges. And one more challenge, and that is something they conspicuously ignore. And that is, if we even believe that nothing split into positive something and negative something, and that positive something is something where we are actually living in, then, I mean, that positive something is the universe today, then tell us one thing, that how do you find so much order in this universe? You know, why this universe is so sophisticated? Every component intricately designed. And that design is that specific design so that it can serve a specific role in nature, in the universe. And all these components now are having, interaction among themselves. And this interaction is actually the exact interaction that is needed for sustaining this universe. It is mind blowing. How can you ignore this? How do you find order, perfection in the universe? And this is a question they conspicuously ignore, and they say this could be an accident. So my dear brothers and sisters, we cannot accept this theory that something came from nothing without any cause. We cannot accept this theory because this theory has challenges and it cannot solve those challenges. What are these challenges? Number one, what triggered that zero or that nothing to split into plus one and minus one suddenly? Second, why are you explaining from some level, that means subatomic level or quantum level, whatever it is? Why don't you start from nothing to something? Right? And third, how can you ignore so much order, so much perfection in the universe? So this theory we can reject. There is a very important observation here to make, my dear brothers and sisters, and it's a very important thing, in fact, especially about the atheist when they argue about the genesis of the universe. And it's a very, very important observation to make. Listen to this. This is very important. If you study a chain of events, then that chain of events always suggests one possibility. But if you isolate one of the events from that chain of events and now think about the possibility of that event, what could be the possible cause behind that event separately, forgetting about that chain, then you might get more than one possibilities. That means when you are studying the event in a chain of events, then you get one possibility. When you separate it, isolate it, and study it, then you get more than one possibilities. What do I mean by that? Let me give you a simple example you understand. Suppose I bring a broken lock, a door lock to you and say, what do you think would be the possible cause of breaking of this lock? Now you will say there could be many reasons, why the lock broke. Maybe someone dropped it from a high place, and maybe someone broke it on purpose. Maybe the lock is actually manufactured by some poor company, it's not a very good quality lock. Or maybe the lock was very old, it broke itself. So there are four possibilities you were saying, or if you're going to think about more, then probably you are going to get more possibilities. Now, if I am going to put this event, that lock, into a chain of events where it is connected to actually broken lock that is connected to other events. Now let's see how many possibilities you can give, and you won't be able to give me more than one possibility. Listen to this now. Yesterday I came back home and I found my main door lock was broken. This was the event which I isolated before and asked you separately that what could be the possible causes of this, of the broken lock, and you gave me four possibilities, remember. Now you get it in a chain. So I found that my main door lock was broken, and anticipating more mishap, I rushed into my house, and then I found that there was a trail of footprints leading to my bedroom. There's a trail of footprints leading to my bedroom. This is the second event now. Okay, broken lock is the first event. Second event is the trail of footprints that is leading to my bedroom. As I followed that trail, I found myself in the bedroom and I found my cabinet, my cupboard where I keep my valuables, is ransacked. So this is the third event now. My cabinet is ransacked. And fourth event, that I found my valuable diamond ring missing. So there are four events now, and these are all connected. It's a chain of events. Now, what do you think is the possible cause of the broken lock? Now, you would say, there must have been a break-in in your house. Someone must have come to your house, broken the lock and stolen your valuable diamond ring. That is the only explanation you will give. And think about it. So, same event, the broken lock, when I separated it from the chain and asked you about its possible causes, you gave me four possibilities. And when I'm asking you about the possible cause, when you see it in a chain of events, you are able to give me only one possibility. Why am I telling you this? Because this is exactly what happens, my dear brothers and sisters, when you discuss with atheists about the genesis of universe. They will ignore all the chain of events. All the events in the chain they will ignore, and they will only, isolate one event from that. And they will discuss with you, how can something come from nothing? And whereas there is a chain of events, they will not be interested for that. So chain of events in the sense, look at the universe. So many events we have, which one you want to deny? So many signs we have. Even if you look into your body, think about the organs and everything, so intricately these things are actually designed and how they're placed. and then animal bodies, and then plant bodies, and then rain cycle, and then solar system, and then atomic structure, everything. Which sign are we going to deny? These are all chain of events. We have to consider all of them when you are actually thinking about the genesis of universe. And whereas atheists, they will do what? They will just isolate one of the events and discuss about that. So my dear brothers and sisters, this is a very important observation to make about the atheists, especially when you argue with them about the genesis of universe. So moving on to the next possibility, and that is universe is ever existing. That means universe doesn't have any point of time when it appeared or it came into existence. It is always there, it is forever. This is a point, or this is a possibility I'm going to refute in the next episode. Why? Because I need to actually establish certain pertinent points before I'm going to discuss that. Otherwise, it might sound little irrelevant. It might even be incomprehensible. So that is why there are certain pertinent points I'm going to derive, in fact, and then I'm going to discuss about it. And rest assured, in the next episode, I am going to destroy this possibility. So moving on to the next possibility, and that is universe is self-generated, or universe created itself. Now, universe created itself, this is an impossibility, obviously, because the statement itself is contradictory. It cannot happen, because the statement says universe created itself. That means if you say universe created itself, that means you are believing that universe existed before it was created. Otherwise, who was creating it? And if it existed before it was created for creating it, then why is it creating it? Because it's already there. So it is a contradictory statement, obviously, that we can reject it. So my dear brothers and sisters, we are left with only one possibility now. Okay, one more possibility we have, as I have told you, as I have promised you, that I'm going to refute that possibility in the next episode, right? So we are left with only one possibility, which is neither self-contradictory nor logically unsound. And that is, an entity separate from the creation created the universe. A creator brought everything from nothing to something. A creator brought everything, in this sense, matter, energy, space, whatever we think about, let's suppose when we think of the universe, he brought everything from nothing. Now this is where I might sound a little contradictory to you. You might say, hey, wait a second, are you saying that the creator brought everything from nothing, but just now you said something cannot come from nothing? So let me tell you something. I never said that something cannot come from nothing. What we refuted before was something cannot from nothing without any cause. Because remember, when atheists say universe from nothing, though they phrase the sentence like that, universe from nothing, but what they mean by that is actually universe came from nothing without any cause. That means universe split into positive something and negative something. Zero split into positive something and negative something by itself. As if zero has its own mind, nothing has its own mind. That is impossible. That is illogical, right? Because there is no cause there. But we believe something actually came from nothing. But there was someone to do that. Someone brought that something from nothing, and that someone is the creator. So there is a huge difference out here. So we believe actually everything came from nothing. Because if everything didn't come from nothing, then again question will arise that where did the things come from? And why is he the creator? Creator means, that he brought everything from nothing. And that is what actually act of creating is. Remember, in the initial part of this video, we have already discussed this. What is creation? So he brought everything from nothing. And in fact, today, modern physicists support this belief. They say that everything actually came from nothing. And they corroborate their belief with a lot of theories. For example, theories from quantum mechanics. They use theories like theory of general relativity to prove this, that actually everything came from nothing. In fact, this discovery, scientific discovery, that everything came from nothing, reinforces the idea of a creator. Because when it says something came from nothing, that means obviously nothing doesn't have its brain. Nothing means nothing. It cannot come into something by itself, right? So the moment it says that actually something came from nothing, that means it compels you to think that there must be some agent who did that. There must be someone who did that, and that someone is the creator. So actually, this discovery that something came from nothing, it reinforces the idea of a creator. But atheists think what? Whenever they hear the scientific discoveries, okay, a scientist says that, something can come from nothing. They think this is a testimony to their belief that there is no creator. So my dear brothers and sisters, the only possibility that is acceptable is that there is a creator who created everything. And that creator actually created everything from nothing. This is the only true possibility that we can believe in. With this, my dear brothers and sisters, I would like to end the video here. Thank you very much for watching. And remember, we have one more possibility to discuss, and that we are going to discuss in the next episode, as I have promised. And please continue watching. See you in the next episode. Take care.